welcome you all here tonight. You're in for a treat. But I'd like to ask you all a quick question. How many of you are here because of the commodity course, your course members in the commodities? Good. How many are Rich Man's Secret course members? Good. How many of you don't know why you're here? We were at the Beverly Hills Hotel. We did roundtables and workshops, and we planned this event for tonight. I got a phone call, and it was a woman, and she said, "Mary Ashley," and I said, "Yes," and she said, "I'm so sorry to bother you. I'm a course member." And you know, when she said that, I realized that that really means something to her, that she's a course member. And I want you all to know, and I wanted her to know, that it means something to us too. We feel Ken has found what we feel is the world's one perfect business. He's taken it beyond that, and he's going to talk to you tonight about what we do ourselves in our own psychology that limits our success. Ken has found something so exciting. He shared it with me. I find it so exciting, and we want to share it with you. Your course members, we know where you get stuck, and we don't want you to stop there. We want you to get up and get going and do something. You're already leaps and bounds ahead of the masses just because you're here tonight. And Ken will go into some of the numbers just to show you how rare you are. So you've already taken the steps that most people won't take to change a life that they may not be completely satisfied with. The first half of the evening, Ken is going to talk about what it is that limits your success. I can tell you personally that when I first met Ken, it's getting close to 10 years ago now, my outlook on my financial situation in life was that I would always have enough money to get by. And I always thought that was a pretty positive outlook. I really wasn't afraid of poverty or anything like that. I figured I'll always have enough to get by no matter what I do. I had no idea how much I was limiting myself with that thought. Because in a sense, I was holding myself to having enough to get by. Then I met Ken, and I was friends with Ken and Chris for several years before I went to work for him. And when Ken first started asking me to go to work for him, I had a lot of the feelings that you probably had. I knew Ken, I respected him, I thought a lot of him, but I wasn't too sure about what he was doing in his business. I read the brochure, and I said, yeah, right, okay. But the thing that allowed me to go to work for Ken was the guarantee. I figured, okay, so here's something that he says works, and he's promising you that if it doesn't work for you personally, he'll give you your money back. And the bottom line to that is if we sat up here and told you that 2 million people got rich using the TWAMPM course and you couldn't do it, what difference would it make? So that was the first different thing about the Ken Roberts Company that attracted me, besides knowing Ken and Chris. After going to work for Ken, I realized that I was in a different kind of place, and I loved my job. I wouldn't leave Ken or my job for anything, but I don't want to need my job. And that's the difference that commodities has made in my life. It's taught me, and I had to overcome a lot of myself to get in a position where I could even get in the futures markets, let alone be comfortable in them. Then when I first started trading them, I decided that I wanted to make a car payment a month out of my commodities account. Pretty good, huh? Car payment a month? I mean, that's big money to me. Well, I'll tell you today, I want to pay my house off in 2 years. And the way the markets are looking this year, I hope I can do it by the end of this year. And whether I do it by the end of this year or not, the fact that I now think I can has made all the difference in the world in my life. I saw things that I never saw before. I saw opportunities that I never saw before. I took chances I never took before. I went against myself in a way that I never went against myself. And those are all things that I have learned as a result of being involved with the Ken Roberts Company. Everything in commodities trading that we found is attitude. Successful traders have a different attitude than other people. That's what we're going to talk about. Ken opened an account to trade along with the roundtables about 1.5 years ago. Everybody wants to know, does Ken really make money trading commodities? That account is now worth about $3.5 million. And of course that fluctuates every day, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $3.5 million. Okay, I said the same thing too. Sure, if I had $50,000 to start trading commodities with, I'd be in that shape too. Well, let me tell you something. I started with $3,000, and I do exactly the same thing Ken does, but I do it 1 or 2 contracts at a time. Someday, I'll do it hundreds like he did. But he didn't start off with $50,000 to put in commodities. At the time that he discovered commodities, he was living in an 800 square foot home. He was doing multi-level and real estate. So anyhow, Ken was looking too. And then he found commodities, and he started with, I think it was about $600 in sugar, and he'll talk a little bit about that. He didn't start off with a whole bunch of money, but when it happened, he realized that this is it. He had found what he had been looking for in the way of a business in this country, the way that it is today. A business that can take you anywhere you want to go. It's the only thing like it that exists that I know of in this country or in the world today. So Ken sat down at his manual typewriter. You all know what the manual looks like. You know that it has typos in it, and the type is actually the type from his typewriter. He sat down, he wrote the manual, and he and his wife and his son Jeff, who's here tonight, and his daughter Nikki, who were really babies at the time, used to type up the labels and package up the courses and put them in binders and run them down to the post office. His car wasn't even big enough to do it all in one trip. So he would have to go back and forth with the manuals, taking them down to the post office. And he loved doing it, but he never dreamed that the Ken Roberts Company would be the business that it is today. That's not what he intended to do. Ken loves to write, he loves to teach, and he loves to share. That's why we're all here tonight. And that was his intention when he published Twampum on his own and put a little ad in a newspaper or a classified in a magazine, I think. And the response to it has been overwhelming because all of us want something better in our lives. After the break, after we go through all that, he's going to answer all of your questions about commodities. So have your questions in mind. We'll do a nice long question and answer period and clear up some of the mysteries and take some of the fear away and hopefully get you to where you know that this is something you've just got to do. Ken's not going to do it here for you tonight. I can't do it for you. Nobody in the world can do for you what you need to do but you. Another thing that we just did, if you're ever up at Oregon Way, Ken just spent $50,000 installing a beautiful course member lounge up at the company. It's not something we had to do, but like I said, you do matter to us, and if you come up there, we want you to know it. We have a satellite in there. We have videos. Ken devised some quizzes that you have to take if you come up there because he doesn't want you just coming up and lounging around. If you're going to come up, you're going to get to work. We're going to get you started. Part of what we do is that we want you to know that you don't really need us, or do you need all of the products and things that we offer you. Twampum, one, really has everything in it that you need, just like Ken promised. And we do offer you other courses, and we do offer you other things, but I guarantee you, we kept our word. You don't need anything else. You may want more. We're a wonderful company to stay hooked up with. Ken will tell you cancel your subscriptions and all that to our newsletter and everything. I say if you want to stay on board just because we're so much fun, then you ought to do that. We've taught over 300,000 people in about 89 countries. I hope that you're going to be one of those. We were in Los Angeles a month ago, brought in about 25 course members from all over the country. We picked up the tab, brought them in. We didn't pay them, but we did provide their room and their meals. And they are people that have done well and wanted to share their experience with you. So you'll be able to look at the people that have done it. They'll tell you why they've done it and how they've done it. And it was probably one of the best experiences of since I've been at the Ken Roberts Company, because we rarely get to sit down and talk to the people that have done it. We're in on the basic level. We're teaching you, your new course members, and that's our level of involvement. So it's really, really good for us when we can hear from you when you've actually gone out there and done it. There's a lot of good trading stories out there. There's a lot of them at the office. Maybe we'll get to hear some of those stories tonight. I want you to know that I consider Ken my best friend, or one of my best friends, not just because he taught me how to trade commodities, but because he's taught me a lot of other things too. I think that after tonight, when you get to hear him and listen to him, you're going to realize that your initial instincts were right. How many of you knew when you read that brochure that there was something sincere in it? Our first brochure. Couldn't you just feel it? Well, you're going to know it even more tonight. And I want you to just sit back and get yourselves ready for a treat. And with that, I'd like to bring up my friend, my boss, and my mentor, Ken Roberts.
Thank you. We had to make a dramatic entrance because of the videos and all that. Normally I come schlepping in from the back. Well, welcome. I'm glad you're all here. You know, we sent out, I think, 50 or 51,000 announcements, like the one you received. About 1% shows up. We did a seminar at the Beverly Hilton Sunday night and here tonight. So there's about between the two, there's about 1% show up. The others had something better to do. You know what it was? Probably recuperate from working so hard, or having a multi-level marketing meeting in their living room, or what's on TV Tuesday nights. I don't know. We're going to get a little strong with you tonight. That's what you need. I probably will never get to sit down with most of you. I know I won't. We may never meet again, but you don't need me. That's what I'm here to tell you tonight. You've got everything you need. It was just like in the, I said in the course originally, after 3 months, you don't need Ken Roberts anymore. And Mary's here to tell you about that. I got to tell you about Mary a little bit, though. When I first met Mary, you know, I was raised and grew up in the San Fernando Valley. You know that story. And then we ran from the crowds and we moved to Valencia, and it started getting crowded. So we ran from the crowds and we moved to Ojai. And you know, Ojai is kind of a ditzy place. You know what I mean? And when I met Mary, Mary was a hippie. She was a hippie, and she was wearing Birkenstocks. You know what I mean? Now, let me tell you something. If you own Birkenstocks, get rid of them. They're not only the nastiest looking things, but I'm telling you, psychically, they're hurting you. So just trust me and get rid of the Birkenstocks. So she was wearing those things. She was into holistic health care. She was like, you know, one of those moonbeams dancing on the water. You know what I'm talking about? Driving an old beat-up Valiant, doing her bit for mankind, living in a little cottage behind someone's house. And then she discovered commodities. And now, like she says at her workshops, you too can be a shallow capitalist like me. I mean, look at her now. She wears Armani suits. She's not wearing Birkenstocks. I guarantee it. They're Bruno Magli's. She's got a personal shopper at Neiman Marcus. This is all true. I'm not making this up. And the minute we land, we landed in Van Nuys. She's out of there in this car she has. Where's Mary going? Oh, she had an appointment at Jose Ibert to have her hair done. What a change. She takes trips to Tahiti. I got to tell you something. I'm going to go a little farther with it. You know, we travel around. We don't have to do these. We do it because we love it. The question I get, I hate to hear. I hear it all the time. Well, if you're so rich, why do you sell courses and do seminars? You know, the radio announcers ask it and all of that. I get so tired of it. I do it because I love it. I love doing this. It literally takes me 20 minutes in the morning to do my business, and I'm managing millions of dollars in this account, and I keep all my records in a set of charts, just like this, every morning, 20 minutes. Well, everyone must think that when you have enough money, and like money's not the point anymore, you sit in a rocking chair or something the rest of the day. And that's not what I mean, I guess if you want to do that or fish or something, that's okay. I don't like to do those things. I like to teach. I like to tell you about this. So tonight, we do these because we love it. We do it because the question we hear most in the office is, what do I have to do to get going? Now, let me tell you something. We came down here about a month ago. We were at a hotel at LAX, and we flew 25 course members in from around the country. We chose them by their varied backgrounds. We had a student from the Air Force Academy. We had a man who worked on the space shuttle, and he had to turn around that night and fly right back because there was a shuttle launch like 3 days later. And we had this little gal. She's the most conservative thing you've ever seen. She looked like a librarian. She had the little glasses and everything. Most conservative thing you've ever seen, and she is just having the best time in commodities. She said, I was raised that you got a job. And if you don't have enough money, then you get a second job. And she said, I found out that's not true. Doesn't have to be true for you. And wait, I'll tell you when this video is all done. It's almost ready, and I'll make it available to everyone. But what I learned there, for those of you who have heard the Real People, Real Money cassette tape of interviews, many of them said this, but one in particular was Bob. You remember Bob, the former UPS manager? And he made $750,000 in soybeans one year. And the host asked him on the tape, well, did you ever, after reading the manual and all that, did you ever call the office for help or talk to the course counselors? And you remember what he said? No, no, no. I didn't call. I had everything I needed here. I had the manual. Well, 24 of these 25 interviews that we just did, I asked the same question. And 24 of the 25 said, no, I never called your office. These are the successful course members. So you have everything you need in that course right now. And just do it. Just get started. And that's what these evenings are all about, to just like do that to you and make you do it. And if you hear nothing else of what I say tonight, if it's all a blank, just remember I'm going to tell you to paper trade. It will teach you everything you need to know. And if you're trading real money in the markets, I am the first to tell you, if you're not confident doing it, get out of there. Stop doing it and go back to paper trading and get confident. And that's what I'm going to talk about the first half, is this, the mental aspect of this and what's holding you back and why you haven't gotten going, if indeed you have not gotten going. And if you have, that's great, and I'm going to encourage you. If there's one thing that's going to sum my life up, it looks like now, this is going to go on my tombstone, no one knows what you think they do. If you would remember that, and as I remember that, everything clears up and everything gets so much better. No one knows what you think they do. Now, I've got a few stories I want to tell you, and this has everything to do with your trading. And it has everything to do with all other aspects of your life. Let me give you an example financially. In 1994, this was in last year, in an issue of USA Today last year, but it was reporting on 1994. They took the top 10 stock funds in America, the top 10, billions of dollars under management. The managers of these funds are making millions of dollars. They're flying around in private jets and limos and wearing Armani suits. They're living the high life off of these funds that they're managing. Did anyone see this? Did anyone see what number one, top of the heap, superstar fund manager generated for his fund? 1.5%. The average of the top 10 was minus 1.7%. So all they did was just keep it about even and suck millions and millions of dollars out in fees. Now, that's a problem psychologically. Everyone turns their money over and wants someone else to make them rich. It is not going to happen. If there was a secret to success and some special system to use to trade, believe me, these fund managers making millions of dollars would know it. But there is no such fund. There is no such book. There is no such person. So what I'm going to tell you tonight is to not listen to all of this stuff. Do your paper trading and learn for yourself what it takes. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And it's very, very exciting. I was sitting, there is a man, I cannot say his name, unfortunately, because it would violate a confidence, but most of you know his name. He is big time in commodities. He's been around for probably over 30 years. And I was sitting with a man up in Oregon in my home in my cigar room up there, and we were just chatting. And this man I was chatting with is he's huge himself in the commodity industry in Chicago with the Board of Trade. He's on mayor's committees. Man is huge. But he's been a broker. I mean, that's how he started out. And he still handles like 3 or 4 accounts personally. One of them is the biggest divorce attorney in Chicago. The other man, his other client whom he's a broker for, is this man I'm telling you that most of you know his name. You've read his books. He has a $1,600 set of videos. He even has indicators that he's come up with that are plotted in certain charting services. People pay extra to get his indicators on these charts. And they go to his seminars, and they pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for his newsletter. And when this man was sitting in my cigar room up there, he said, he happened to say he was this man's broker. I said, really? He said, yeah. And I said, well, how does he do? Like, how much money does he make? I wanted to know, like, do I make more money than he does? I mean, that's what I wanted to know. And he kind of smiled, and he said, well, I've been his broker for 8 years, and he's never had a winning month. The sad part of that is that you have read his books. You have bought his videos. You must find out the source of whoever it is you're going to listen to. You better make sure it's a real source. And I'm telling you, most of them out there are not real. Do you remember the heyday in real estate? When all you know, I was in on that. I was in on the real estate show business thing, and I was traveling around with the biggest names, and you know all the names, in the real estate industry. And I'd be flying with them and sitting next to them on the way home, and all of a sudden, here was, you know, little naive Ken Roberts doing his little thing. I had a little niche in real estate that I taught, and I'm flying around with the biggest, the heavy hitters in the real estate show business industry. And it started slowly dawning on me, this man didn't do what he said, what he's up there teaching people. He hasn't done it. And then I saw the biggest name. He was the biggest seller at the time at these seminars. He came into the promoter's office. It was up in San Ramon in the Bay Area. He actually came in there and needed an advance because they were going to cut his phone off. And that did it for me. I'm out of here. I couldn't take it anymore. But a lot of you, and me included, went to the seminars, paid the big bucks, got the books and tapes, and they never did what they're teaching and what they're purporting to have done. It's all a lie. No one knows what you think they do. You know that bald-headed gal on TV that says, "Stop the insanity"? Like, more and more, I'm sounding like her. Stop the insanity. The message is right. Stop the insanity. All right, what's the insanity? That you give your power away. Let me ask you this. Let's say you're trading. You call your broker and you say, I want to go long July pork bellies. And the broker says to you, you want to go long July pork bellies? If that bothers you, then you don't have the confidence that you need. You better stop, and you better get back to your chart so you have the confidence. Because I know it would back you off. And it backed me off. You've got to get to where it won't back you off. You cannot believe the news. We call it stupid news when it comes to commodities. Actually, we take an example in the cotton market, and we take real news items that came out, like in the Wall Street Journal and in the papers in Chicago, and we plot it against the chart, and the chart does exactly the opposite of what the news said. And we're going to talk more about this in the second half tonight. But what started this all was I was short cotton at the time, and in the morning I called my broker to get my updates like I do just about every morning, and cotton was limit down, and I was short. That's good. I said, oh, all right, good. And I said, why is it limit down? What's the news? Well, the broker pulls up that official news. It's called Futures Source News and Analysis Service, and it's the news that comes out of the Board of Trade. And she pulls it up, and she says, oh, they found 1 million bales of cotton. In all seriousness, I said, what? You mean they lost 1 million bales of cotton? How do you do that? But she was in total seriousness, she said, and that's what people listen to. So we call it stupid news. In fact, people send me things now. This is from a financial newspaper. And it's down in the corner in one of those, you know, just real down in the corner. It says, for the record, the November 13th futures column incorrectly reported that the Agriculture Department had announced a major sale of U.S. wheat to a foreign buyer. The agency made no such announcement. Do you know how many thousands of bushels of wheat were bought and sold on this phony report that didn't even exist? This is what I'm talking about. You cannot be swayed by any of the experts or the gurus. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Now, nowhere has this been said more clearly. I got so excited, not last January, but January 95, in Forbes magazine. This is, if you want to get it, they don't sell back issues, so you'll have to go to a library. January 16th, 1995 issue of Forbes magazine, John Templeton was on the cover. Now, John Templeton is a true source of information. The man is a legend in stocks. He's done it. He's made the millions. All right. In this article, he says, to be a really successful investor, you must master a simple but counterintuitive principle. Now, out of all the people who read this in Forbes magazine, should have knocked every one of them off their chair when they read it. And I'm telling you, it did not. What does counterintuitive mean? Do exactly the opposite of what your mind tells you, what your own mind is telling you. The mind that when you say, I want to go long July pork bellies, and the broker says, you want to go long July pork bellies? The same mind that then flips and goes, oh, maybe I shouldn't go long July pork bellies. That's the mind we're talking about, the counterintuitive. Now, you all know how to get rich. You all know it. J. Paul Getty wrote about it. Rockefeller wrote about it. Mellon, Carnegie, on and on and on. How do you do it? Tell me. Buy low, sell high. It is that simple. Buy low, sell high. It's real simple. But then this thing gets involved, these brains of ours, and messes the whole thing up. Well, John Templeton calls the buy low, sell high the principle of maximum pessimism. That's the phrase he's applied to it. What he's saying is, what he says in this article is, people come up and ask me, Sir John, that must be what they call him. He's been knighted, so he's Sir John. So they go, Sir John, what is the hottest market now to be in? Where's it hot? Where's the outlook good? He says, that's the wrong question. He says, the right question is, where is the outlook miserable? And that's how Templeton has made his millions and millions and millions the last 40 years. So by the way, where do you think John Templeton is investing right now? He was on Wall Street Week being interviewed, and he told this recently. Where do you think he's investing? Mexico and Russia. That's right. But most people won't because they're afraid. And he's saying you must do this counterintuitive thing, this principle of maximum pessimism. Now, also in this Forbes article, there's a sidebar. And this is what John Templeton spends his time and energy on now. He has a foundation. And his foundation gives away more money than the Nobel Peace Prize. I think that's fabulous. That's capitalism at work. And in this sidebar, what he's saying is he's really turned off by organized religion. He's actually very disappointed in it. And he has started this foundation, and he says, a person is more likely to be successful managing money if he uses spiritual principles, says Sir John Templeton. And the more you practice spirituality, the more you learn. This is Forbes magazine. And I'm telling you, most of the people who even read this sidebar just went on to the next article. They don't want to hear about spirituality. Neither do you. If you just noticed, your minds, most of you just clicked off. Now look, don't you think he means something by saying this? If the word spirituality bothers you, substitute the word psychology, and it'll work just fine. What he's saying is learn about this mind, and this is what you've never done. We're all out there, and by the way, tonight, whenever I say you, I mean me. I am not separating myself at all. We run around and we look for things. What do we do now? What do we do now? And if you've ever noticed, we have this list. You have a list, and this list has on it things that will make you happy. And the list has things like, I have to make this much money, then I'll be happy. All right, well, let me tell you about that. There's a book coming out. You may have heard it. They've been talking about it on CNN. I can't wait for this book to come out. They did a before and after study of $1 million plus lottery winners. Over 90% of the cases, in over 90% of the cases, the person was worse off after the money than before. But your mind, my mind says, hey, not me. You give me $1 million, I'll show you an exception. Right? Now, I was telling this at one of our roundtables in Washington, D.C., and this man raised his hand. He said, my sister won $15 million in the Texas lottery. And he said, her life is now a shambles. But our mind said, no, not me. You give it to me. I'll show you. I can do it. All right. Also on this list, have the house. You got to have the house. You got to be in the right neighborhood. You have to marry the right person. Then you'll be happy. Then you have to divorce the wrong person. We made a mistake on that one. Let's divorce that one. We were wrong on that. You have to have the right kind of car. You have to wear the right kind of clothes. On and on and on. And if you'll just stop and look and say, look, it's not happening. As I get a few, we get a few of these things on the list, but everything I've ever gotten never paid off the way it was supposed to. Someone said it in the Oscar Awards last night. I forget who it was. Do you remember that? Where he said his father told him the best part of the candy store was standing outside looking in the window. Enjoy that? That's so true. That's describing this big brain that we've got. It's better looking in than actually going into the candy store. It always lies to us. And that's what we're looking at. And what we're talking about here, the psychology aspect, has been said by all the truthful books and authors. Like Plato said, know thyself. What does that mean? It means what we're talking about. It's throughout all the great literature. It's talking about know what's going on up here, but we never look at this. First, I want to tell you about your best friend. I want to show you what you're up against here. It's your best friend, this big brain, this ego you've got, all right? And a great example is the alarm clock goes off in the morning, and you are dead tired. You just cannot get up. And your best friend says, I'll go on, sleep a little while longer. You think, I can't. The other part of your brain, you can't. You got this important meeting. You've got to get out of here. The other part says, oh, go on. You can do it. Just sleep a little longer. The other side says, you better not. You got to get up. You got to get out of here. Then the other side uses the clincher. Go ahead, sleep longer. You deserve it. You go, yeah, I do deserve it. I do. And you set the alarm for whatever, a half hour, hour later. Now the alarm goes off, and you are out of that bed like a shot. You're tearing for the shower. Your heart is racing. You're late now. Now what is your best friend telling you? The one that said you deserve to sleep longer. It's saying, you are so irresponsible. You do this every time. What's the matter with you? Am I right? Now you're in the shower. Your heart's racing, and you're having a fight with someone from high school 30 years ago. You're fighting with them, and you're the only one in the shower. Then you're shaving. You're probably risking your life doing that. You don't have breakfast. You don't kiss your husband or wife goodbye. The kids are gone. You're in the car, and now you're a madman in the car on the freeway. You're risking your safety and everyone's safety around you. And then someone deliberately cuts you off. And what does your best friend say now? Ram him. Right? What is going on here? This is what we're talking about. This is what Templeton's talking about in investing. It's saying, let's look at this thing that's running our lives and making slaves out of us. It has us as its slave. What is going on here? And if you'll start to do that, everything will open up. Now, this article I found last week, I picked up Reader's Digest, in the March issue of Reader's Digest, and the article is called An Unassuming Billionaire, about Warren Buffett. Now, Warren Buffett is a true source. He's done it. He's the richest man in America now, $18 billion, richer than Bill Gates, okay? He says, investor Warren Buffett believes anyone can be successful with money. And he's made it the old-fashioned way. He didn't tear up companies and rip them apart and all of that kind of stuff. He's just long-term, buy low, sell high. And he says the trick was to invest when the stock prices were far below their true market value and trust in the market's tendency to correct. Now listen to this. Or has Buffett himself said, you try to be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. That's psychological. That has nothing to do with money. The trick is the psychology of it. Templeton said it better, but that's not bad, what he said. What does that mean? It means silver's been up to $50 an ounce, and then it came down and it was at $3.50 an ounce. Now, how low can it go, right? It cannot go to zero. So isn't this like a prime candidate for buy low, sell high? But most people did not buy silver at $3.50. You know why? Because all of the gurus and the financial experts were all over the place and in the newsletters and in the magazines saying, hey, it's going to $2. Kodak doesn't use silver like it used to in film processing. Dentists don't use it like they used to. And on and on and on and on. And $3.50 was the bottom. I know this. I was in sugar at 2.5 cents a pound. Now, it cannot go to zero, can it? So 2.5 cents is the lowest it's ever been, and I mustered up everything I could put into sugar at 2.5 cents. And in those days, I was living in the San Fernando Valley, and I watched KWHY, which still exists here, right? The financial station. And it was a bad thing to do, having that TV set in my office. And every 15 minutes, they'd do an update of futures prices, and the rest of the day, they'd parade these stupid experts by. And they always have to come up with something. So they talk about, oh, well, sugar, it's going nowhere for 5 years. There's a 5-year glut of sugar, and aspartame and NutraSweet have just taken all the wind out of sugar sales. And I'm going, oh, man, I had everything I could muster in that market. Well, it wasn't, but thank goodness I hung on. I was greedy when everyone else was fearful, as Buffett put it. I hung on and got the rewards. That's psychological. And it has to do not only with finances, but everything else. Now, let me tell you something here. In fact, this was cute because I like cigars. Buffett was taught by an old, wise old man, basically. And he said, you look for what he called cigar butts, stocks that were cigar butts, because they may have a couple of good puffs left in them. That's how he said it. But it says, Buffett has always mistrusted advice givers and financial soothsayers. He said, here's the quote, with enough inside information and $1 million, you can go broke in a year. Confidence in one's own judgment, he realized early on, is what matters most. That's the confidence that paper trading will give you. So when the broker says, you want to do what? It won't bother you a bit. You'll be able to mentally say, shut up, just take my order, will you? I don't want to know what you think. I know what I'm doing. That's the point you want to be at. That's the point you want to be at in all your life, as a matter of fact, because you're always saying, what do I do? What do I do? And you turn to others who are not true sources of information, and think about it. Those of you who got in the course, you had the sales book, right? How many of you gave the sales book to your friend or associate or someone and asked them, what do you think about this? Come on, how many did that? Now, I want you to think about who you gave that to. Think about it. Hear people chuckling a little bit? Because now they're realizing that man didn't know how he's going to make his house payment the next month, and you're asking his financial advice. If you're going to ask someone's advice, ask someone who's made some money. Then you'll go to a true source. We had this happen at the company. someone was asking another man's, it was a fashion, like, what do you think of this outfit or whatever? And I'm looking at this, and the man he was asking had missed 2 belt loops. And his shoe was untied. I said, wait a minute, there's something wrong with this picture here. Look at his belt. He can't even put his belt on or tie his shoe. And you're asking his fashion opinion? Well, we all do that to some degree. We defer to anyone practically. Someone looks at us crooked. Why? What's the matter? What's the matter? We get so defensive, we're not confident. And that's where we want to get, is confident, not only in finances, but in every area of our lives. It's so important, and the neat thing is, you can use finances to do it with. Now, I'm going to cover up the name of this magazine. I don't want anyone getting this magazine. But on the cover, if you walk through a newsstand and saw this magazine, it says, How to Build a Trading System. I'm telling you, your hand would immediately reach for that magazine. Am I right? I know I'm right. Because even my hand today would twitch a little. It would. And I'm telling you, whoever wrote this article does not have 2 cents to rub together. Now, there was a study done. Thank goodness for these things. There was a study done. It's put out by it's a newsletter put out by the government. It goes to stockbrokers and security dealers. And this newsletter studied Money Magazine and the writers of the articles in Money Magazine. And what the study found was most of those people who write articles for Money Magazine have never purchased a mutual fund. But you're reading their financial advice. And the study went on to find out that half of those writers also write for Rolling Stone. And you're reading Money Magazine. Don't read it anymore. There's only one good thing in it anyway. Does anyone know what it is? My ad. And they didn't want to take my ad. I had to have my attorneys threaten them. They're going to protect you from commodities. And they don't even know what they're talking about. But look at it. Look at the psychology here. You see Money Magazine. If you subscribe to it, this happens to you more than the rest of us who just see it on newsstands once in a while. But the headline always is, how the top 10 funds to be in now. All right? So you read it, and then now you're in conflict. There's fear there. I don't care if you have $10 million. Well, how do I divvy it up? Do I put $1 million in each? What do I do? Then the next issue comes, the 5 ways to make money now. It has nothing to do with what you read the previous month. Same is true of financial newsletters, for those of you who get the newsletters. 15 best stocks and closed-end funds and mutual funds and this and that to be in now. You don't know how to divvy it up. You don't know which ones to buy. Then the next issue comes. You don't read it. Then the next issue comes. Now you're behind an issue. The whole thing is on fear. Like any junk mail in your mailbox. Think of that. You know all the teasers, the coming crash and da-da-da-da-da. It's all based on fear. They use fear as the motivator. And anything where you're motivated by fear is not good. Now, I'm not talking about if you see a lion, you head the opposite direction. Technically, that's not fear. It's instinct kicking in, and you don't even have to think about it. But anything else, the newsletters, the advice, the soothsayers, the gurus, any of that stuff is wrong if it's based on fear. And most of it is. 99% of it is. So I'm going to tell you to get rid of all of it. We're going to do some neat things here tonight. I'm going to give you a list of things. I was in Atlanta, and they interviewed me from the Chicago Sun-Times, which is, one of the 2 big Siskel and Ebert and that thing. Well, the Chicago Sun-Times is a huge newspaper in Chicago, which is the heart of commodities, the biggest exchange in the world, Chicago Board of Trade. And this was the financial editor of the Chicago Sun-Times. And he called me and wanted some input for this 2-page spread that he was doing on commodities in the Sunday newspaper. And for 30 minutes we were talking, and everything I said to him, he came back with, well, yeah, but what about? And he was just real negative. And finally it was getting to me. I said, you know, there you are in Chicago, right there at the Board of Trade. Have you ever have you been involved personally in commodities? He goes, well, no, not personally. And I said, and you're going to do an article with this negative attitude you have about commodities and put it in the newspaper for millions of people to read? And that's exactly what happened. And the two-page spread came out, and the headline was, 85% of investors continue to lose money in commodities. Now, what I think about is all the millions of people who read that Sunday edition and they open it up, oh yeah, 85% of people continue to lose money, and they go on. And he knows nothing about it. And I told him, I said, you know what? You're doing yourself a great disservice by not getting involved in finding out what commodities is all about. And you don't have to invest a cent to do it. I get such a kick. We go through these hotels. Everything, I'm managing millions of dollars in this set of charts. You know, it comes out every week. Every Sunday night, I sit down with a cigar, and I transfer all this information over to the next week's charts. And that takes the longest. That takes about an hour, but it's one real good cigar. And frankly, some Sundays I don't want to do it. I don't feel like doing it, but I know, hey, look, I am spoiled. This is the world's one perfect business. I started in this thing with $600. And that's it. So I'm walking through these hotel lobbies. This is my business. Walking through, I don't have to convince anyone of anything. I can go wherever there's a telephone. It's an 800 phone number to my broker. And we're in the lobby of these hotels, and I know the last time when we were doing that video I was telling you about, there was a multi-level marketing meeting with 700 people there. And they were all over the place. They were all over me. They were all over any warm body they could find. In fact, someone came out of the restroom from our staff and said, I don't believe this. I was sitting there in the bathroom, and I look over, and one of them had their business cards stuck between the door. And they've got these book tables that are 50 feet long with how to manage people, how to build a downline, how to do this, and they're buying books and tapes like crazy, and their blood pressure's up. What a racket. Aren't you so sick of multi-level? I mean, it's like way overdone now, and the pendulum will swing back. But this is it. The world's one perfect business, and you can be successful at it. And the more you do what I'm talking about tonight, the more successful you will be at it. Let me tell you something that just dawned on me. Coffee moved a lot 2 years ago. You know that because it went from what? Well, I don't know how much it went. How much did it go for? Yeah, how much is it in the grocery store now? $8 a pound, and it went from $3 or whatever it was. Anyway, it's huge. To most people, it just means their standard of living went down again. To me, I made about $300,000 on the up move. Then it came down, and then it ticked up again. I knew it was going to tick up again. You would too if you do your paper trading. Well, I made about $300,000 on the huge move. Then it dropped. Then it made a little tiny, it looks like a pimple on a chart. I made $700,000 on that one. I got better. You know what I'm saying? You get better at this the more you do it. Now I'm kicking myself. I should have made $3 million on that big move, but I didn't. But I'm getting better. All of us get better. And you know, there are course members. There's a lot of course members I've heard from who make more money at this than I do. And I do really well. And yes, you can make a living out of this. You absolutely can. That's what's on your mind, in your mind. Can I make a, yes, you can. But you can't learn it from me. You can't learn it from anyone. You can only learn it for yourself by doing this. And it won't be from reading the book. I want you to do well. And the beautiful thing about the world's one perfect business is if all of you made $5 million, it wouldn't hurt any of us. It wouldn't mean just the markets are bigger. Okay? That's another thing. I want to say it now so I won't forget. Don't you ever feel guilty about making profits in commodities. Now, what I'm talking about is you hear the poor farmers in the Midwest, the floods, the drought, the disease, the whatever. And you know what? I can't go into the whole thing, but the farmers are not starving like Willie Nelson says in his Farm Aid thing. That is such a disservice to this country to plaster that all over the place. It is not the fact. I'm telling you that. He probably does it for a tax write-off or sell more albums or something like that. It is not true. The markets were created for the farmers to hedge those crops. Yes, my grandfather was a farmer. Some of my relatives are farmers. Farmers are the most terrific people on earth, them and school teachers and nurses. But that's part of farming. There is disease, there is drought, there is too much rain, there is all those things. But the markets were formed exactly for those people to hedge their crops and protect themselves against those things. And the market must have speculators like you and me, or it won't work. And it's exactly the way it should be. So don't you ever feel guilty that you took money or food out of some poor farmer's mouth. You absolutely did not. And if you don't believe me, you check it out. In fact, tonight, I don't want you to believe anything I say. I want you to check it out for yourself. Make sure you know from yourself that this is true. There's a real neat story about how we found out all the farm. I thought they were starving too because of that Farm Aid thing. And it is not true. Now, Vernon Howard was one of the best writers on these subjects. That's why we carry all his books and tapes and videos at 4-Star Books. If you want to read and do videos and tapes, do those because they pay off and they don't cost $1,600. Do those. That's where it's going to pay off. There's nothing in the bookstore you need, I'm telling you. There's only 2 or 3 true books in there that lead you back to what we're talking about. There is no secret to success. There is no magic formula. I see it now. Since I wrote the book, we've gone around doing book signings and things in bookstores. I see the people in there. It was me. This is what I used to do. They're in the self-help section, and they're like this. Just waiting for that one book that will solve life's riddle to pop out. There's no such book. Cancel all your subscriptions. If you get especially if you get Money Magazine and the financial newsletters and all that, cancel them. They are not helping you. Look, even if you had a newsletter and it showed you how to make 100% on your money every year, just following the person's advice, that's fine. But what happens when he dies? What are you going to do then? But there is no such newsletter, by the way. So cancel them. Cancel the financial papers you get. You don't need that junk. In fact, cancel the LA Times and USA Today. You don't need that junk either. And that leads me to the next exercise. Don't watch the news. There's nothing on the news you need to know. Now look, if this really upsets you so much, do it for a week. All right? Just don't watch the news for a week. Look, it's murder, rape, kidnap, and some other gruesome thing are the first 3 or 4 stories on. And if you knew what it was doing to you, if you'd start to watch, you'd notice your chest is all tight. You kind of numb up. In fact, I called home and my wife watches, she always watched Chicago Hope and ER. Those were like her favorite shows. And she called me, which one was on Thursday nights? ER? Something. She called and I always thought, I said, aren't you watching the show? She said, no, I started noticing. Then when I got up the next morning, I always felt just kind of numb. And she said, I think it was the show doing that to me. Well, that's what I'm talking about. Start to watch the influences and what happens to you. And I'm telling you, the evening news is doing that to you. You don't need to know anything on there. And I'll tell you something else I've learned. The weather thing, you don't need that either. Right? It's never right. But I'm telling you, there's an absolute correlation between financial gurus and weather people. It's the same mentality going on. They always have to come up with something, right? Well, the weatherman, you've seen that satellite picture of the clouds, the neat view of the West Coast, and you see all these systems coming in off the Pacific, and you've seen it thousands of times, right? And you're kind of learning it a little bit, right? You know that if that thing's swirling clockwise, it's a high. And if the thing is swirling counterclockwise, it's a low. You know that just because you've seen it thousands of times. So now I noticed I was getting to where I wanted to predict what he was going to say. So I'd say, okay, that's counterclockwise. That's a low coming in. It's going to cause wind and whatever. But then he always says, you know, you think he's going to say that's a low. And he goes, that's a subtropical depression that slipped under a high zone of an inverted air layer. And you're going, what? I never heard that one before. They keep coming up with new ones to throw you. And you know why? He's got to justify his job. That's all they're doing. And I'm not kidding. It's funny, but it's true. You watch it. And they'll always come up with some weird thing you never heard before. It's just like the economists. They come up, stagflation. Whoever came up with that? You know, and who knows what it's going to be, you know, an inverted inflationary recession. You know, they always come up with these new words that mean nothing, but they have to justify their own jobs. Now, all that I just told you is what we cover in the Rich Man's Secret course. And that's the one Mary was telling you. We actually lose money marketing that. But like John Templeton and I'm not comparing myself to John Templeton, but that's where his love is and where he puts his money. Rich Man's Secret is the best thing I know to do with my time and my money. And I want you to take advantage of it. It's $97. Again, we lose money on it, and you need the help with this. This world, I'm telling you about the Stop the Insanity, you need all the help you can get because nothing is going to help you along the lines that we're talking. And the Rich Man's Secret course was designed to help you do that. I brought in Dr. Ellen Dickstein, who's a noted psychiatrist or psychologist, and she studied under Vernon Howard for many, many years. And those of you who are in the course, you've seen how that monthly bulletin has expanded to 6 pages, and it's better than ever, better than when I was doing it. And every week we have what we call an insight line that's faxed or you call in for it, and it has a guest. I'm on there, my wife's on there, and we have different guest speakers talking about a particular practical subject. That's what's so neat about it. It's so practical. You know, Shakespeare talked about these things, and again, Emerson and Thoreau and Tolstoy and Longfellow and on and on. But how do you apply it? What does know thyself mean? What does that mean to me sitting here in this room tonight? But as you start to look inward, you see, I'm anxious. Like, I just can't sit in this room. Something's pushing me. Come on, get on with it. Get on with the commodities. That's what I came here to learn. That's what's going to make me happy. Well, it's not going to make you happy. You can be very successful. In fact, you know, my thing, kind of know my story, don't you? I grew up it was actually Encino, but it was on the border of Reseda. It was actually not really Encino. But all the rich Encino kids went to Birmingham, and that Birmingham High School, and that's where I went. And that parking lot at Birmingham High School looked like the movie studio lot at Paramount or something. BMWs and Mercedes and Jaguars and everything else. And I had a 53 Chevy I'd parked 3 blocks away and walk into class. Well, for me, the thing was money. You got to make the money. You got to make the money. And that was just my thing. And so I made the money. I finally made the $1 million. And then you know what it told me? $5 million. Because most of it went to taxes. So then I made the $5 million. And then you know what it told me? $10 million. I'm telling you the truth. Made the $10 million. Then you know what it told me? $25 million. My wife the other day said, "What's it up to now?" It'll never be satisfied. It will never be satisfied. But if I don't see that, it'll drive me to a heart attack or worse, trying to live up to it. It'll never be satisfied. Why is it you can go to New Orleans, you can have the best dinner in the whole wide world, you can have the best dessert, you can be bursting at the seams, and what's your mind telling you? You miss some things. There's more to eat. Right? That's what you have to start watching, or it will drive you crazy. And that's exactly what's happening to us. We're all being driven crazy unless you start to see how this machine called you operates. And then everything else gets better. It's like John Templeton says, the more you study this, the better investor you'll be. And the better father, the better mother, the better whatever you do for a living, whatever, the better you'll be. So I'm encouraging you to focus on this and stick with it. It'll pay off like nothing else has ever paid off for you, because nothing has ever paid off for you. 4-Star Books is my hobby. I get to bring you things that, in some cases, you cannot get anywhere else, like the Ted Warren book. You know, those of you, you know the Ted Warren book. Well, I own it now. I finally tracked down Ted Warren's widow. She sold me all the rights to the book. Ted Warren's widow was 82 when I found her. That was like 2 or 3 years ago. Now, let me ask you this. If you were 82 years old, would you be interested in annual ongoing royalties? Okay, does that give you some idea why I charge $59 for it? But everything else is, you know, $9.95 and $4.95. 4-Star Books is not a financial success. Every year the accountants tell me, I don't know why you keep 4-Star Books going through there. You've got salaries to pay and benefits and everything. I say, look, you just keep counting the beans, and I keep 4-Star Books going. And I bring you things that are difficult to find and that are truly valuable. So what I'm saying to you is, at least stay in. If you don't need the Ken Roberts Company anymore for commodities, great, great. I was successful at teaching you. But do at least stay in touch with 4-Star Books and what we have to offer there. It is all very, very special. How many of you have called and ordered from 4-Star? Did you talk to Dolores? Dolores is unbelievable. And you've got to come up and see us. We just put in a course member lounge at the company. And I'm telling you, it's worth a trip to Grants Pass. A lot of people plan their vacations around it to come by and see us. We're just 60 miles above the California border. You go through Ashland, that lefty land, Ashland, but you'll feel right at home. It's just like California. Then you get to Medford, gets a little more redneck, and then you come to Grants Pass, and it's really redneck. All the bumper stickers say, eat, sleep, and go fishing. And also it says, I love the spotted owl. It tastes a lot like chicken. So come see us. And I built this lounge and put a course counselor in there. And I told him, Travis heads up the lounge. And I said, I don't want anyone goofing off and just resting around in the lounge. Put them to work. So we came up with 4 quizzes. And I said, give them a quiz. They're going to learn something if they come here. So you come up, we'll give you the quizzes, and you come around and see our operation. It's just the greatest. If it weren't fun and weren't as nice as it is, I wouldn't do it. I really wouldn't. It is a lot more difficult trying to run a company with 85 people than it is doing the commodities 20 minutes a day. By the way, those 25 people we interviewed, I asked them all, how much time every day do you spend running your commodity business? The common answer was 10 minutes. And one man, when he said it, he really looked sheepish. I said, you look guilty saying that. And his wife said, yeah, it's almost, you feel guilty because you're making all this money and it's like 10 minutes a day. It's unbelievable. Wait till you see these videos. So take a break, get some coffee, drink some water. We'll come back.
Ready to get started? We're going to talk about commodities. Ken's going to be on in just a minute. I want to tell you one of the things like the Rich Man's Secret course, Ken says he loses money on the Rich Man's Secret course. We do what's known in marketing as price testing. Now, most places that test a product test to see what the market will bear. They want to see what's the highest price they can get somebody to pay for the product they're trying to sell. And then whatever price is the highest price they can get, that's the price they market their product for. We test for the greatest response, and that's the price we market our courses for. The Twampum course price hasn't changed since it was first produced. And the Rich Man's Secret course got the greatest response at $97. That's why it's $97. And that's why Ken's not making much money on it. But I'm going to tell you something. He doesn't care. You know why he doesn't care? He's very, very, very rich. If he never made another penny, he would be very, very, very rich for the rest of his life, and his kids are going to be very, very, very rich. So he doesn't care. He's having a good time. You know, that's what I want. Isn't that what you want? Don't you want to have a good time? But I'm going to tell you something about attitude. I just found this out when we were in Los Angeles. When Ken first got out on his own and opened his first checking account, he had a friend whose father he admired very, very much. The man had a penthouse or something, a penthouse office or something like that, and Ken admired him, got his first checking account, and the first check he wrote was for $1 million made out to this man. And he said, hang on to it, someday it'll be good. Isn't that something? I mean, that's attitude. That's what will take us where we want to go. Then I want to tell you something else, too, and I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but somebody came up to me at the break and said, can you look at this chart? Is this a false start? And I said, where'd you ever hear the term false start? And he went, well, I think it was in the manual. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. And you know what? We're hard on you. We're going to be hard on you tonight with some of these questions. Do you think we're hard on you because we go home after this and laugh and say, ha, 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 weren't we hard on them? How many people were at the workshops or roundtables today? Or this weekend? The point of being hard on you is we've been there. I know where you go wrong. Ken knows where you go wrong. We've been there. Listen, let me tell you something about commodities. There are high prices and there are low prices. And you can call them false starts or false stops or Elliott wave or anything else you want to call them, and there's still high prices and low prices. And the prices may go up and the prices may go down, but they're not going to go away. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to know all these terms and all these things to make money in commodities. How much brains do you need to know that if coffee is at 25-year lows, the price is going to go up? If you're buying it for $2.99 in the supermarket, you know it's not going to last long, don't you? If you see something on sale in the market at a lower price than it's been in a long time, don't you know to load up on it? Why? You know the price is going to go up. So we're hard on you, but it's not because we get pleasure out of being hard on you. We're trying to tell you, keep it simple. Kenny will say to you, if you don't do this or you don't do that, or if you do this or you do that, you're stupid. Well, we're talking to ourselves. I know what it took to change me. I know something about everything in the world, and what I don't know, I make up. We have an attorney like that. Anyhow, Ken's going to come back. This is it. He's going to show you how to make a lot of money. It's exciting. Go for it. Do what he tells you to do. But most of all, have fun doing it. This is so much fun. We have the greatest time you can imagine. And we have it whether we're trading, talking about trading, teaching. Do you know why Ken has the Ken Roberts Company? He loves to teach, and he loves to write. And if you know what first got your interest was the way that he wrote that initial brochure. That's his love. That's why he's good at it. And aside to that, he's gotten very, very wealthy in commodities, and he can teach you how to do it. So, and it's not that hard. So stay on track. Don't get mad at us. Take it the right way. I don't know what a false start is. So if that was your question, forget it. And Ken, you want to come back up?
You wouldn't believe what's in that room behind us. Like banks of computers and monitors and for all these cameras and things. The hardest part of trading is to know that you're doing the right thing and sticking with it. This is why I want you to start to call all the news stupid news. All the fundamentals and all that kind of stuff. Now, I want to tell you a little story. My first broker, Ernie Roseman, right here in Beverly Hills, also had a client whose name you would recognize because it's a family name that has a retail operation across the country. The man was in his 60s, wealthy anyway, And he has 3 acres of flat land here in Beverly Hills, so you know what that place is worth. And he also had cattle ranches in Washington State. Every year, cattle prices were dropping. At some point down here, the man would call Ernie and say, Ernie, cattle prices are just too low. Let's go long 200 contracts of cattle. And he never used a stop. Why? Because he had the money to back himself up. All right, now, the prices were coming down. He never hit the bottom. He never picked it right at the bottom. He would get long 200 contracts, and prices would still dip. He would be at, big losses, but he had the money to back him up, and it would turn around and go back up. And every year, he would make hundreds of thousands of dollars doing this. The man never looked at a chart. He knew cattle prices because he had a cattle ranch. Now, let me ask you, what kind of a trader was he? Fundamental or technical? He was fundamental. He knew the news about the market. He never looked at a chart. A technical trader trades by the chart. If the man had looked at a chart, he would have said, whoa, look, cattle does this, orange juice does this, coffee does this, Eurodollars does this, silver does this. You remember when you first got in the course, and if you started paper trading, you would say, oh, there's so many markets, these 50 of these things. Well, when you paper trade like I'm telling you, and you start to look for these unbelievable opportunities, you're going to be saying, man, I wish there were 150 of these things. No kidding, because there'll be more opportunities to do that. All right, well, this was when I first started, I would talk to Ernie Roseman with my little 1 and 2 contracts, and he would say, our friend is long 200 contracts of cattle. Well, what would you want to do if you were me? Yeah, get me some of that cattle too. Well, I found out real fast I couldn't wait out the dips. I had to put a stop in there. It goes down some more, I get stopped out. But then what do you want to do? You just want to get right back in, right? At a better price. So the idea is, what I teach now at the roundtables, trade without stops. And you can do that. You can do the same thing this cattle rancher did. And if you don't have enough money to back up a position, you can protect yourself with options now. When I first started this in 81 and 82, options were just coming available. They were just marketing them. And over the years, the open interest has built in the option market to where now it's an unbelievably big market. And you can use options very fluidly. And you should be using options if that's what you need for protection. If you don't use them, you're nutty for not using them. You should sleep at night. Like I said, you should never, ever lose sleep over your trades, because that means you've gone out on a limb too far. And you never have to do that. All right. By the way, this man never shorted. He never shorted cattle. He never called Ernie and said, Ernie, the price is just too high. They can't go any higher than this. Let's short 200 contracts. And I said to Ernie, how come he never shorts them? And Ernie says, because he doesn't get it. You don't have to be smart to get rich. I'm telling you, you don't. And the dumber you are, the better off you are. Because it's that big, stupid, educated brain that we have that gets us in so much trouble. And it's as simple as that. You must start looking at all this stuff as stupid news. You cannot believe it. You cannot be swayed. So go to your charts and look up Eurodollars, page 65. Actually, go to page 67. Okay, let me tell you one more example, the approach to be thinking about. And now this is a true story a broker told me. He was in Redlands, California. I think it was around 1972, coffee prices were around 50 cents a pound. way down here. That's pretty close to zero, isn't it? Can't go to zero. Or they dump it in the ocean. You've seen that in the news, you know, when the farmers dump milk in the field and all of that. All right, it was down to 50 cents. A year or so later, it takes off. I forget, where did it go to, 370 or something like that? All right, when it was down here 50 cents a pound, this broker knew a man who wanted to learn all there was to know about coffee. He actually went to Brazil. He learned about how they plant coffee, how they grow it, what diseases it gets, how they harvest it, the politics involved, how does weather affect it. On and on, he learned everything there was to know about coffee, and in 1972, he got long 10 contracts of coffee. Coffee took off. If you look at a chart, it's this way. Wow. He made $8 million starting with those 10 contracts. He has never traded since. I don't know why, but. So I was talking to this, one of our course members, I think he was in Houston. He was somewhere in Texas. And I was, you know, talking with him on the phone. I said, look at this coffee chart. And I was telling him about that. And he said, you know, it's interesting. He said, I had a insurance agency then. And this gal who worked for him, like his secretary for all these years, he said every day at lunch she would go to a commodity brokerage on her lunch break. And then right after that huge spike in coffee prices, she came in and gave her 2 weeks' notice. And he said, what's the matter? I didn't know you didn't like it here. What's wrong? Can we fix something, or how can I make it right? She says, no. She said, I just made $1.1 million in coffee, and I'm quitting. And he says, I always wondered what that was about. And it took him all these years to get involved in commodities. Fellas, there's a side benefit to this, to making money in commodities, I want to tell you about before I forget it. You can, you know, being successful in this business can go so far with impressing your mother-in-law. You know, behind every successful man is a surprise mother-in-law. And mine likes me now. In fact, my father-in-law is trading commodities. It took him all these years. Now, he was like the man, the cattle rancher, but my father-in-law owns a chain of grocery stores. He has 13 grocery stores and owns the center, you know, that the building and the shops around it, of all of them. And but he also owns orange groves in Fillmore. And I was trading orange juice. It was real low. This was, I don't know, a couple years ago. And I happened to, we were talking, or I think maybe he came up to see us in Oregon, whatever it was. I said, yeah, I'm real, like, I may own more oranges than you do. I was so heavy into oranges. He said, really? What's it at? And 89 cents or whatever. He said, hey, that's low. I said, yeah, it's low. I knew that from looking at the charts. And he got in. He opened an account. He said, how do you do this? So he opened an account. The man's a businessman. And finally, he saw, you know, like the cattle rancher. Hey, you mean I can buy these and leverage and all that? And he was very successful. And he didn't call every day. In fact, it took off not long after that, and it was limit up one day. And I called him just to see. I said, hey, did you see those orange juice prices? No, what? I said, limit up. He said, is that good? I said, yeah, that's real good. And he took tens of thousands of dollars he took out of the orange juice market. He's a businessman. He sees. He wasn't intimidated, and he wasn't calling every day. That's the way to trade. I do call every day to get my updates, but I don't have to. That's the whole point. You don't have to sit at a screen and watch every tick. Here's Eurodollars. This is what I want to talk to you tonight. You see this top up here at 97 in July of 1992? Okay, I was short. And see that drop? I made a couple $100,000 on that drop. We were in Boston at the time. And I was showing, there was about 400 people at this seminar, and I was showing them I just made over $200,000. And someone in the back raises his hand and says, what's a Eurodollar? And I said, I don't know. I didn't. You don't have to know. Anything in this book is a huge market. It's a survival industry. It's not going away. All right. Well, I found out after, I thought I really should know what a Eurodollar is. So I asked my broker, a Eurodollar is a US dollar in a European bank. All right? So you put your money in the Bank of London, and it's a Eurodollar. That's what they call it. And it gets a certain interest rate. You know, just like here. And by the way, did you notice this new currency, the new $100 bill? It was in USA Today last week. There's like over 2.5 times as many US dollars outside of America as there are here, which kind of surprised me. So anyway, Eurodollars is the biggest market. It's over 2 times as big as the New York Stock Exchange. That's huge. And that's what this market is. All right, now here's the point of all of this. Whatever this chart reads, for example, the highest point it made there that you can see is 97, right? It's actually 97.01 is what it was. That is the highest this chart has ever been. Now, what does it mean? It means you take 97, or whatever number this is at on the chart, and you subtract it from 100. And that gives you, in this case, 3. That means 3%. You put your money in the Bank of London, Eurodollars are at 97, you're getting 3% on your money. Now, what does that tell you about this chart? What's the highest it could go? 100. But is it going to go to 100? Well, 100 is 0% interest. Would you put your money in the Bank of London for 0%? No. So what does that tell you? You've got them in a corner. Now, there's probably some patriots here, you know, people who say the Federal Reserve is illegal, politicians are all crooks, the money system's a fiat money system, it's not backed by gold. Yes, yes, yes. All of that may be true. But the point is, you've got them in a corner. There's only one direction interest rates are going to go, and that's up. Now, if you have an adjustable rate mortgage, you know in the bottom of your heart where interest rates are going to go. Am I right? And you're right. They are going up. It just is how long. The question is, how long is it going to take? And that's what all the prognosticators and the experts and the financial gurus and everyone is telling, you know, they know when it's going to happen. They don't know when it's going to happen. No one knows when it's going to happen. But your chart tells you it has to happen. All right. So the point is, you know, and because this is man-made, it's upside down and backwards, but the higher this thing goes, the lower the interest rates go. So interest rates are going to go up. This thing is going to go down. So you want to short this thing. It's like going long 2.5-cent sugar. All right? It's the same thing. It's just flipped. All right. So let's zoom in now. Go to the June Eurodollar chart on page 65. Now, what I want you to do is look back on the left side of the chart at last March, 1 year ago from today. Look where interest rates were. In fact, they were lower than that. They were about 92. That means 8% interest. Everyone forgot. No one remembers 1 year ago from today. And there's the chart of it. All right? Now, here's what happens. You've got to flip back to the weekly. Okay, now look. Those of you who are in the course will know what I'm talking about. Those of you who are not, don't panic, okay? But here's very simply what happened. They made their high at 97. From there, they dropped. They dropped just like November, December. See, they hit a low of 92.75. Now, those of you in the course know about the 50% rule. This thing you can have confidence in, but you've got to do the paper trading to where you do have confidence in it. And what it says is a market will tend to rebound 50% of what it just did. All right, so you plug it in. Someone have a calculator here? Take 97 plus 92.75. That's what the low was. Add those and divide by 2, and what do you get? 95. What did this chart do? It actually went back to 95. You see that? All right, now look, close-up view of June here. Now, we were getting short, and if you've been in the course, you've heard me harping on this. It's called the Options Profits Insurance Plan. It's that 4-page report in your course, and it's probably the most powerful tool in the whole course. It shows you how to do what the cattleman did with cattle prices. And we're doing it in Eurodollars. So we were buying put options, which means you think the market's going down, and you have the right but not the obligation to get into a short futures contract. Now don't get all panicky if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's real simple, but the words scare you. So we were buying these put options. Now, do you remember I told you about the $50 silver options? Now, let me just give you a picture of options. Options is an entirely separate market from a futures contract. You can buy Eurodollar futures contracts and trade those, and then in a totally separate pit at the exchange, they trade options on the futures market. They're separate, but of course they're connected because they're trading the same market. All right, so whatever the futures does, the options reflect it. Now, I want to flip to a silver chart to demonstrate this to you. And that would be page 56. The weekly silver chart. All right, now it was like January, February, 93. All right, find that spot and look up. You see that little up blip? See, it was in a narrow sideways channel, and then it blipped up, that little bit. Okay, here's what happened. During that narrow sideways channel, I was buying silver call options. In fact, they were $5 call options. Now, if you don't know what that means, don't get all upset and excited. But it meant, I could exercise it for a futures contract long from $5, which was a fair distance away from where prices were at the time, right? They were below $3.75. I was buying these options, these call options, for 1 cent. Now, what is 1 cent in silver? 50 bucks. It's there in the legend. $50. I think I had 40 of them at the time. $50 a piece. What that means is $50 is the most I could have lost no matter what. So all this garbage about what your friends and your so-called friends and family and associates, oh, commodities, you can lose your house. I'm convinced there's one person out there in America who lost his house, and everyone heard about it. All right, this was when the news was happening. Dentists don't use silver anymore. Kodak's not using silver. Silver's going nowhere. I was buying the call options. You remember what Warren Buffett said? You've got to be greedy when everyone else is fearful. That's why those options were $50 a piece. All right. Then the blip happened, that little tiny blip. You know what they were worth after the blip? $3,250 each. Why? Because all the idiots woke up because the financial gurus told them silver might be going somewhere. That's why. That's what you can do. It's exciting. I think I call it financial detective work. It's like being Sherlock Holmes, finding bargains. And I'm going to show you another one tonight. But that's what we're talking about with options. This is just one way to trade. And that's what I'm going to show you tonight is options. $50 is the most I could have lost on each of those options. And I had 40 of them. So multiply that one out. 40 times $3,250. I'm showing you how fortunes are made. Not $600 and $800 and $1,200. I'm showing you how fortunes are made. Now silver, well, you look at this chart. Look at that silver chart. Do you think those options are cheap anymore? No. Why? Because the price is more volatile. It's moving now. But it was a narrow sideways channel back then when I was doing it, and that's exactly what you learned about in the manual. Narrow sideways channels. That means low volatility and no one's watching. That's what it means. Okay? So back to euros. Now, do you remember I told you about the $50 silver options, and then it blipped 25 cents, and they went to $3,250? All right, they were $50 because no one was watching. Well, for months, we've been buying put options in euro dollars for $50, $75, $100 because no one was watching. Now, I want to show you in like February, okay, it's 2 lines after the February 15th line. You see that big drop that day? Okay, that day was a Tuesday. It was the day after President's Day. And there was no trading on Monday, President's Day. On Tuesday, now, we were just here in LA and had interviewed those 25 course members. We flew in from around the country. And I remember we were sitting with this course member, and he had done real well in commodities, but we were telling him about this options plan in euro dollars and why he shouldn't miss it. And he was arguing. And Mary got really ticked with him. He was going, well, you don't know how long it's going to take. And we said, yeah, that's right. We don't know how long it's going to take, but it's going to happen. Well, all those options will expire worthless. Well, maybe they will, but we'll have more added. We'll be there when it happens. Anyway, he kept arguing, and Mary got so ticked with him, she got up and she says, you know what? Don't do it. I don't want you to get into euro dollars. And she huffed off. All right. So then we go up to San Francisco on President's Day, Monday. All right, Tuesday rolls around, and I'm doing a roundtable that day. And the headline in USA Today that morning was, I don't know exactly, but it was, Greenspan's going to talk to Congress about lowering rates again, which meant this chart would go what? Up or down? Up. That morning, look what it did. It dropped 52 points. That's a record. It hadn't dropped that much for I don't know how many years. There were some brokers we talked to, and they said they never remember to drop that hard. It did exactly the opposite of what all the experts and the gurus and the headlines said. Exactly the opposite. And those options that we paid 2 points and 3 points for, or $50 and $75, some of them went on to 17 points that day. I made about $170,000 just in the one day. So anyway, I said to Mary, why don't you call that fella?
We did. We called him.
Did.
We put him on the speakerphone.
He wasn't home, and you should have heard the message she left on his answering machine. Did he ever call you back?
Yes, he did.
He did? What did he say?
I wasn't there, so I called him back. You know, you got to, because we warned him. We said, hey, you know what? And it's like I told everybody today, you're going to sit there, and all of a sudden you're going to go buy a new car, and they're going to say the interest rate is 10%, and you're going to remember this night.
Now, if you have an adjustable rate mortgage, rates are going to go up, your monthly payment's going to go up, and your standard of living is going to go down again. Now, with this options profits plan I'm going to show you, I don't care how much money you have. I want you to investigate this. I want you to get comfortable with it. I want you to paper trade it. And I'm going to show you, maybe you won't pay the mortgage off, but you'll take a huge chunk out of it. That's the kind of opportunity this is. And I'm telling you, there are very few people in this country who will ever pay their mortgage off. You don't know what a burden is lifted when you have no mortgage. I can't tell you. Okay. Now I'm going to run out of scenario, and I'm going to be so conservative. I'm going to be overly conservative. There are no holes in what I'm going to show you. If you go check it out for yourself. And like I say, prove it to yourself so you're confident in it. But we have to guess some things. You know, that's the only way we can do it. And I'm going to be ultra conservative in doing it so no one will be able to accuse me of hyping this thing. So what I'm saying is the results will probably be much better than I'm going to show you. But you decide. All right. What we're saying is the Options Profits Insurance Plan says you take an extreme market like this is, you all see that, and you commit a budget to it. And I don't care how much money you have or don't have, you can commit a budget. If you have an adjustable rate mortgage, you will make the higher monthly payment when it happens. Somehow you will do it. Well, I wish you'd treat this plan the same way and somehow manage to do it. But I'm going to show $2,000 a year committed to this plan. Now, here's how this works very basically. And again, this is in your course. It's the 4-page Options Profits Insurance Plan. Eurodollars options are offered in 4 increments or 4 months per year. They offer December, March, June, and September. All right? So on your paper there, you draw it on these charts if you want. Draw 4 boxes. And they stand for December, March, June, and September. All right? Now, if you're committing $2,000 a year to this plan, how much are you committing per box? $500. All right, now, the way the plan works is you're going to go out about a year, and you're going to make your first purchase. And you're going to shop by calling for prices every day. In other words, track these option prices. And what you're looking for are put options. And I'm just going to demonstrate, I'll use the December chart because I actually have some numbers for this. The December chart on page 67. I personally have 194 December puts. Now don't get shook up if you don't understand. It's just going to look at these charts. I paid I forget now, 2 or 3 points each, $50 or $75. Now look what's happened. Those things are worth a lot of money now. I have 100 of them. You can be trading like the cattleman was trading because you're using these options. And whatever you pay for the options, that's the most you can lose. No matter what happens, no one's coming after your house and, you know, all that stuff everyone worries about. There's not going to be some truck driving in your driveway with corn in it. And, God. I'm so sick of that. You know, and you tell anybody about commodities, and they all tell you about that one man who lost his house, right? Aunt Tilly's third cousin lost his house doing that. You better not do it. They never have firsthand knowledge about anything. But I'm convinced there's one man who did lose his house trading commodities, and everyone knows about it. And that's what they tell you when you say, hey, I'm looking into commodities. Oh, no, you know, you can lose your house, you know, all that. Anyway, you cannot lose your house when you buy options, okay? So we looked at a 94 put, and they're expensive now. But I want you to start. Why are they expensive? Because the market moved and the idiots woke up. That's basically what happened. Remember my option, $50, it jumped up 25 cents. See, also, remember, I had a $5 strike. I was way out of the money with my option. I just want you to realize prices don't have to get up there for you to make profits. It only jumped up 25 cents of this distance and went right back down. But it was still worth $3,250. Why? Because everyone woke up. Well, the same thing here. Now they're going to die down again, hopefully. Hopefully nothing will happen radical for this thing to move. So I want you to be calling for prices every day and getting prices. Say, what's a December put option, a 94 put going for? And wait until it simmers down. And once you get into the rhythm of this, you'll know exactly what's going on. But you have to do it. See, make this one of your exercises on that list. Call a brokerage every day for prices. And you know why you don't want to do that, by the way? You want to, I'll just look in the newspaper. Don't look in the newspaper. Number one, it's filled with errors. Number two, the options you're looking for won't be listed. They don't go out that far usually. Now look, think about it. You know what the futures page looks like in the newspaper? Would you want to typeset it? Would you? Well, neither does the person doing it. He's probably being punished. That's true. He probably did something wrong, and the editor said, 6 months on the futures page. No, please. That's what happened, I'm telling you. So don't use the newspapers. And you know why you don't want to call a broker? Analyze this. Someone tell me the truth why you don't want to call a broker. Because you're afraid. You're afraid they'll think you're stupid. You're afraid you're bothering them. So call the brokers. That'll be one of your exercises. Maybe look on March 97. Look for a 93.75 put. Down to where it's been. See where it moved to? And wait for these things to get cheap again. All right, now, in these 4 boxes, what you're going to do is you're going to purchase like a year out. So what's now? March, so we're looking at March 97. You're going to purchase whatever your $500 will purchase. So I have to assume here now how much you're going to pay. And I'm going to assume that you're going to get them for $100 a piece. That would be 4 points. In Eurodollars, 1 point is $25. That's here in the legend of the charts. And now again, don't get all panicky if you don't know what this means. It's real simple stuff. And if you don't understand anything at any time, you call a course counselor. That's what they're there to answer your questions. All right? So I'm going to assume they're $100 a piece. I personally paid 2 and 3 points, $50 and $75 for all the put options I have. So I'm gonna again be conservative and say that you pay $100. All right. So how many will that give you? 5. All right. Now there's one hole in what I'm showing you here, and that is commissions. You have to pay commissions on the options, but I'm not going to put a dollar amount. I don't know where you trade or where you're going to go or anything else. I want you to get the concept here. So I'm telling you right up front, I'm not including commissions in this presentation, all right? So you get 5 options if they're $100 a piece. All right, then when the next month comes on, so that'll be June 97. When they offer the June 97 contract, you're asking about those options, and you're going to purchase 5 of those, $500. And then June 97, and then September 97, and December 97. So at any given time, you're going to have 4 boxes. Those 4 boxes, we're just going to say have 5 options each in them. All right? Now, it may be some only have 2. It may be some have 8. It may be some have 10. I don't know. You don't know. No one knows. So I have to make this up. So we're going to say 5 in each one. So at any given time, you'll have 20 put options, all right? Now, December options will come around and they'll expire, or March, let's say. So when does the March option expire? Look on your charts here. It's all in the charts. When does it expire? March 17th, 1997. So those will expire, and let's say Eurodollars have done nothing. They haven't started dropping yet. Those options will just expire worthless. That's why I call it the Options Profits Insurance Plan. Your auto insurance and your fire insurance expires every year, and you didn't have a claim. Are you all bummed out about it? Well, no. I mean, you bought the protection. That's what you paid for. That's why you keep buying it. You bought the protection. That's what you're doing here. So, okay, those Decembers expire. So then you're going to add the other box. But at any given time, you're going to have these 4 boxes filled with options. All right. Now, again, I have to presume, and I'm going to say, I'm going to even say within 3 years, it takes 3 years for interest rates to go up, and they're going to go to 92.50, which is where they were. Actually, they were at 92. I'm going to say 92.50, where they were this time last year. Is that reasonable? Okay. They're going to go to 92.50. Now, so your profit on this is going to be, let's say you had a 94 put, 9,400, and these go to 92.50. So how much? What's the profit in there? How many points did it move? 150 points. How much is that in dollars? It's $25 a point in euros. That's in the legend in your chart. So how much is that? $3,750 a piece. Now, let me say to you, I'm being very conservative. That's just intrinsic value. These are probably going to be worth more than that, and possibly much more than that, depending on how fast the market drops. Because the faster it drops, it's more of what they call volatility, and that's what drives prices. For example, my $50 silver option blipped up 25 cents, came right back down. Now it's worth $3,250. Was there any intrinsic value in that option? None. That $3,250 was all time value and volatility. It had no intrinsic value whatsoever. It's like tulip mania. You've heard about that, haven't you? In the olden days, they used to trade tulip bulbs, and they got to these outrageously high prices. That's what it is. So I'm just saying intrinsic value. I'm saying nothing about time value or volatility, which could easily double these things or triple them or even more. So I don't want to hurt you either by being so conservative in this. All right? So it's $3,750 a piece just in intrinsic value. And how many do we have? 20. So how much is that? $75,000. How much did you put into this thing? $6,000. We're saying it took 3 years at $2,000 a year to do that. And based on what's happened recently, it's going to be multiples of that. Now that I've told you, this is the part I get strong, because now that I've told you about this and you are aware how this market works and what you can accomplish in it, if you don't do it, you're stupid. There is no other word for it. And that's it. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. That's how fortunes are made. Not $1,200 and $10,000. This is how fortunes are made. You know what else is doing this right now? Feeder cattle. You know what else is in this basic situation? Silver. And that's why the more you learn about this, you're going to be saying, I wish there were 150 markets to be watching, because then maybe we'd have had 5 of these kinds of markets to watch for and to take advantage of. And this is how you do it. And in fact, there is someone out there, a broker told me about, giving seminars showing you what I just showed you. Nothing more. And he charges $5,000 for a seat at that seminar. Now, if people go, and they do go, if they follow through, it's worth every penny of the $5,000 bucks. But if you will just sit down with your charts and don't read any more books, and don't go to any more seminars, and don't order any more tapes, you don't need all that stuff. This is how it's done. It's this simple. And you don't have to be smart to do it. All you have to do is learn what put means and call and things like that. All right, now, that's it. Questions?
If you apply the 50% rule to the euro-dollar chart, it appears as if it's already been hit.
Has it already made, have Eurodollars already made a 50%
which chart?
correction?
Either September 96, December.
Yeah, any of them. But let's take September on page 66. All right, look. You see that low there in August? See the low in August? And then it went on up to 95.40. You're right. It came down a little more than 50%. Now what's it going to do? It should go back up 50% of what it just did. What's that going to do to put options prices? Cheaper. That's why I'm telling you to call every day as it works its way back up, hopefully slowly and gradually, because that means no one's watching. You don't want violent markets. That means they're volatile. That means people are watching. This thing's going to inch back up at a 50% level, and those options are going to get real cheap again. Now, let me ask you again, those of you who made money in the Eurodollars? Will you tell us how much? That's okay. $1,300, $1,400. And how much did you put in? About $200 went to $1,300 or $1,400. Congratulations. All right. Who else? Now no hands will go up. Yes.
After seeing you in Long Beach, I bought 2 April 94.75 puts for 2.5 points each. Sold them later for 23.
Okay, $60 to $600 each, and he had 6 of them. Good for you. Who else? Yes.
I just had one September euro, and I had 2 December, and I sold those, and I held on to another December.
Good.
And it wasn't a lot for me. It was a.
So tell us, what'd you start? How much did it cost you, and what'd you get out?
Well, I started. It was wasn't very much at all. Like about
2 or 3 points.
$400 for all of those.
Okay.
And I came up with
Over 1,000. So $300 or $400 was turned into over 1,000.
Yeah.
Good for you. All right, you did it. Who else? Yes.
I had about 5 June 94.75,
He bought 5 June 94.75s.
Okay.
and for 7 points, and then I sold them at 26.
So you made 19 points profit. Let's call it 20, which is $500 a piece.
Right.
And you had how many?
I had 5 of those.
Oh,
I
okay.
had 1 September 94.50, and I paid 7 points and sold it I think for 28.
All right.
And I had 5 December 94s, which paid I think 9 points, and sold those for 38.
9, you hearing these numbers? So what do you say to your friends now? You can lose your house doing that.
How many did you have total?
11.
11
All right.
Eurodollar puts. Do you know what your total profit was?
It was about $8,000.
$8,000.
Made a dent in a few of those monthly mortgage payments that are going to go up, right? Exactly. Good for you. So, all right, folks, we have people in the room who actually did this. I want you to prove it to yourself and call a broker and start getting prices on these every day. Now, let me show you something else. This is something we discovered at at the round table on Friday. It's the yen, Japanese yen chart. Page 87, the June Japanese yen. Did you ever think you'd be looking at a Japanese yen chart? I don't care what that says. I don't care if it says cotton, silver, it doesn't matter to me. They're all huge markets and they're not going away. They're not like penny stocks and all of that can disappear. Okay, now look, here's the exercise. Give me a 50% level on that chart. First of all, what is that? What is the price doing right now? Is that a narrow sideways channel or what? There it is. That's what one looks like. Okay, now give me a 50% level. Take the high, it was 132. It moved down, and it's working its way. It made a low at, say, 95. So 114 around 115 is half that distance. Huh? 113, 114, 115. Anywhere in there. You know how much a call at that strike price is right now? 1 point. How much is 1 point in the Japanese yen? $12.50. This is what it looks like. And when the yen takes off, look what it does. Look what it looks like in September. See that jump in 2 days? That's all you need for that thing to go 10 or 20 times or more what you paid for it. That's how it's going to happen, if it's going to happen. But what's the worst that could happen? It could actually expire worthless, and they'd lose their $12.50 plus the commission you paid on the option. But is your home at risk? No. Is your kid's college fund at risk? No. Because chances are you don't have a college fund for your kids. That's what you lay awake night worrying about. Now, we had a couple, look, how many of you are in the course? All right, of those, how many of you called the conversation with course member line? All of you should be calling that line. Those people are fantastic for telling us. I won't go into it. People don't like to talk about how much money they make. And those people I'm very grateful to them for letting us tell their story to encourage you. Did any of you hear about Cheryl and Ron, who came to the New Orleans conference, and 6 weeks later they made $184,000 on this Japanese yen? And their comment was they have 3 daughters and they never knew how they were going to send them all to college. And she says on that interview, we did it. We put the money in their college fund. They made it in June and July, and I guess August, as that thing dropped. They were short the yen. And before that, they had never imagined they'd be looking at a Japanese yen chart. That's how it's done. It's done every day by course members. And a lot of other people, I guess. I wish more would talk to me and we'll interview them. This is how you do it. Okay, questions on this plan?
I was just wondering how far out on this, on the Japanese yen, month-wise, you know, like, should we?
Okay, do you buy the June or do you buy the September?
Right.
Well, what I found was the June is 1 point for that call. If you do the same 50% level on the September, it's a lot more. And I don't remember how much. It's a lot more because of the extra time. So that will kind of answer it for you. Now, if you got a June yen call, how long is that option good till?
June 7th.
That's right. See, it says, the man's brilliant who did this. Look, option expiration June 7th. All right, so you've got a little less than 3 months on it. But for $12.50, like Mary said on the paper trading video, it's cheap entertainment. All right, any other questions?
I have a question. How do you decide what strike price to go for, or do you base it solely on the point value?
You just go shopping. Now, here's how I do it. I believe in fantasy land. If you were going to trade any market with an option, what's the very best you could get? It would be an at the money. The strike price would be at the money. Wherever the futures price is, so at, say, 96, it would be a 96 call. That way it goes 96.01. Hey, I'm making money already. Okay, but let me tell you something else. The price of the futures does not have to get to the strike price of the option to be worth any money. Remember my silver example. My strike price was up here at $5. And the silver price was what, at $3.75 down here? It blipped up like 25 cents. Didn't even get close to up here, but it was still worth $3,250. That's called volatility. And that's all the value it had was volatility and time value. It had no intrinsic value. Now don't worry about any of these terms if they're bothering you, okay? All I'm saying is it doesn't have to even get close to up here to be worth a lot of money. But if I had a silver call option at $3.75, right at the money, and that thing blipped, it would have been worth a lot more, see? So ideally, you'd want one right where the futures price is, but it's not going to happen. So I start working my way out. But I don't like to go beyond the 50% level. That's my outer boundary. And another way to do this is, I have a rule just for myself. See, you're intimidated by the markets and by brokers. When I told you just now to call a broker every day, you don't want to do that. This is the exercises we were talking about the first half. How come you don't want to call a broker? Someone be honest and tell me. You're afraid. You'll look stupid. You're wasting their time because you're a dummy. That's what you're thinking. Brokerages pay people to sit and give you prices. They want your business. So go through it. And so what? So what? What if you called up and they went, "You stupid? You want to know a Japanese yen call?" I mean, so what? Call the brokerage every day.
I know different brokerages charge different amounts, and I'm not going to say which one I'm with, but it's like $100 in and out. So, like when you bought those 40 options, now you've got, $40,000 or 4,000 or whatever in.
4,000 it would have been.
Yeah, 4,000.
No, when you're buying, this is what I was about to say, and it ties right in. It was a good question. When you're buying lots of options like this, you better ask for a discount, like a volume discount. Now, I'll tell you what also happened. I was saying you're intimidated by the markets and by brokerages. The way I buy an option is, let's say it's 10 points is what they're asking, whatever that means, 10 points. Routinely, I'll put in a bid at 5 points and leave the order sitting there. And let the market come to me. And women, you especially, you know how to shop. And if you're buying a house, you don't say, "What are you asking, 200,000? Oh, okay." You don't do that. You bargain. Well, I told you, this is the last bastion of capitalism, is what I said to you. This is where horse trading happens. It's good old-fashioned horse trading. You know the pits with, do all this stuff they're doing? They're horse trading. So you may as well do it, but you're intimidated still. You say, "Ooh, they want 10 points, I got to pay 10 points. No, you don't. I'll tell you, I've got 100 December put options for 2 points each. And they were going for 4 points. And I told the broker, "Well, let's put in an offer. I'll buy 100 of them for 2 points." And he called me back in a couple hours. He says, "We got an offer came in. Says they'll sell you 1,000 at 2 points each." I said, "Who did that?" I mean, it was neat. It was like they were answering my call. It was so neat. And he says, "I don't know, it's probably a bank or something like that." I said, "No, I'll buy 100 at 2 points." And I got them. And it was almost up close and personal in the pits, But that's how you do it. So that may be a good rule of thumb for you. It's what I use. Whatever they're asking. Now, 1 point on this yen thing, I'm not going to mess around with, all right?
Can I say something?
Yes.
I always tell people this about commissions. I'm not as gracious as Ken is about it. When you're talking about the kind of money that you make in commodities, those commissions mean nothing. That's my mentality. I come from a mentality where $100 is just too much money for anything. But I'll bet you if you ask the man who bought 12 options, even if it cost him $1,200, was it too big of a price to pay to make $8,000 in a couple of months? You can't do it anywhere else in the world. So don't worry about commissions. They'll mean nothing to you when you see what you can do in these markets. It's cheap.
But do ask for a deal. Yes, up here we had.
Ken, could you go through the option plan insurance with the yen as you did with
It doesn't matter. Just do it the same way.
same way,
Same
except
way.
it's not a put, it's going to be a call.
In
is
this
it?
case, it'd be a call. It would be the same thing, but it would be calls instead of puts. And again, it doesn't matter what the label is. Yen, euro, dollars, silver, I don't care what. Look, something else I want you to think about. Silver was at $50 an ounce. It came down and hit $3.50. And then it's bounced some, and it's pretty much in a narrow sideways channel. Now look, if silver only goes to $10 an ounce, I'm not even saying it'll go back. 50% level will take it back to $26.50. But I'm not even saying that. Say it only goes to $10 an ounce. Does it matter if you're long from 350, 4, 5, 6, or even 7? No. All that matters is either you're in it or you're not. And most people will not be in it. That's the big picture. That's all you have to know. But you read these books and it'll tell you how to pick a bottom and all this kind of junk. I want to show you something else too, because I know my wife kind of needles me about silver. You've been talking about silver ever since I met you, And let me show you a silver chart there, 56, I guess. I don't care if silver never takes off. If all it does is this, like you see on a weekly chart, that's all I need. Okay, you see in April of 95, you see that up move? We were in San Francisco doing roundtables. It was a Thursday. It jumped 80 cents. I made, I think it was $375,000 in that one day. I don't care if silver never takes off. All I need is the price activity. And you would know what I'm telling you. You would be taking advantage also if you would paper trade. Because you would know what these markets can do and you would trust them.
When these option prices are really that small and you're in a sideways channel, when does it pay to go both ways?
Good
Or
question.
does it?
You might go.
Why try to guess the market?
It's going to break up or it's going to break down. I'm saying I'm more confident it's going to break up just because I've worked with charts longer than you. But he's saying, couldn't I buy a cheap put and a cheap call and be covered on both sides of it? Absolutely. You think of, some of you went to college, you got degrees so that you could get a certain job. You've gone and you've gotten licenses. Like I think what I went through to get my real estate license took me 3 times to pass that sucker. I think all that energy and all that effort to get nothing. 15 minutes a day and you get an education that can take care of you for the rest of your life. It's unbelievable. And all you have to do is do it. You don't have to believe me. I don't want you to believe me. Find out for yourself. Everything I'm telling you is absolutely true. Yes.
Are you at all concerned about with the number of people taking your courses, the fact that a lot of people will be using the same trading strategies and therefore certain orders will be harder to fill because everyone will be trying to buy at the same places? For example, in a narrow sideways channel, you'll have thousands of people with the same buy price or sell price.
All right, to sum it up, the question is, aren't I wrecking the markets by getting too many people in them? Look at the Japanese yen chart, $12.50 call option. How much better do you want it? Over 300,000 people have taken the course. I don't know how many are active and still trading. The markets are bigger than you can imagine. I want to show you something. Look at Eurodollar. Well, in fact, look at soybeans. Hey, look at the weekly, page 11. On the left there, the bottom left, it's called open interest. That's how many contracts are in all the markets, all the contracts combined. It's what is it? A million, what is it? 1,072,000 contracts, all right? Now, I want you to look at Eurodollars. $2.7 million, twice as big as the New York Stock Exchange. And in the soybean pit alone, every day in Chicago, more money changes hands than in the most actively traded New York stocks. You have no idea how big these markets are. They are bigger than the stock exchange. Okay, look, let me tell you something. Some of you came here tonight to prove me wrong. You cannot prove me wrong, because I'm telling you the truth. We had a man in San Francisco that last time he came to one of these meetings, and when the questions started to open up, he raised his hand. He says, what about lumber was limit down 45 days in a row? With venom in his voice. I went, what? I don't think lumber could be that high to be limit down 45 days in a row. And I turned to some brokers who were there. I said, you ever hear of this? And they went, no, I never heard of it. I don't know, you could check. But let's say it's true. First of all, I don't think you'd be long lumber if it could be limit down 45 days in a row. I don't think you'd be long from that height. But the point is, you can always protect yourself. And I'm the first one to tell you that because I'm the first one to practice it. I'm very conservative. I sleep at night. I have never risked more than I was prepared to lose. I've never risked my house. I've never risked my car, nothing. Never risked my kids, though I thought about it. If you could put kids up as margin, man, we could all be traded. And the point was, I said, look, is that fact or fallacy, whatever's in your mind, have you gotten started? He said, no. I said, is that why you haven't gotten started? He said, yes. I said, then you cheated yourself. Why didn't you ask someone? You can always protect yourself. If you're long a futures contract, you can hedge with a put option so you know exactly what you could lose. Or you just trade with a call option like we're doing here tonight. Whatever you pay for the call option is the absolute most you could possibly lose. I said you cheated yourself, but thank goodness you came here. So there was a little ray of hope in it. There was a little spark, and thank goodness he came. The same with you. Some of you did, I'm sure. You came here to prove me wrong. You can't do it. Because what I'm telling you is the truth. And I want you to find it out for yourself. So, get started. Don't turn that off yet. There's still a lot more to come. You made 30 grand? On what, Eurodollar puts? That's, okay, he was at the Queen Mary and he listened. All right, good for you. Good for you.
I did it too.
How much did you?
I made some money.
All right, good for you.
I owe some money.
All right, look, we got a club here. This is great.
Yeah, whatever.
When you're ready to take another big step forward, call and order today TWAMPM, the workshop video set for the beginning course member, or for the advanced course member, Ken's exclusive roundtable meeting video. Each set contains 6 VHS videos, nearly 6 hours of hands-on, chart-by-chart instruction. Ken reveals how he makes fortunes in the futures market and how you can too.
Now, this all day today, we're going to talk about these rules, but this basically is what I follow.
If you want to learn how to get rich, go to someone who's done it. Spend nearly 6 hours on each video set of pure quality time with Ken and a handful of active course members at these exciting meetings. Because of the exclusivity of these intimate meetings, participants invest thousands of dollars to attend. But now, you can attend one of these sold-out behind closed-door sessions for just a fraction of that cost and experience even more. Why? Because Ken had a special camera installed over his left shoulder that focused on his own set of charts. The charts he refers to, writes on, and uses to illustrate his fortune-making trading formula.
You have a distinct advantage by having this on video, and one of these is you at home watching this on video are going to have the advantage that I've had a camera placed over my left shoulder, which you'll see today, and that camera's sole purpose in life is to stay focused on this set of charts that you're going to see me marking on and discussing and describing.
Where do you think mortgage rates, rents, automobile, energy, and food prices are headed? And how about education, entertainment, clothing, and retirement costs? Well, you can either keep on struggling, trying to keep your head above water and make ends meet, or you can learn how to thrive and prosper on the inevitable rising cost of living. Call and order now. TWAMPM, the workshop video for the beginning course member. Or for the advanced course member, Ken's exclusive roundtable meeting video. Nearly 6 hours of instruction on 6 VHS videos. View them over and over. They never grow old. Make a rich investment in yourself today. And, as Ken Roberts says,
this is how fortunes are made. Okay, now you can turn it off. Thanks for watching. Go do your paper trading.